Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can spin up a virtual server and install MySQL. Now this is going to be a real quick and dirty demo on how to do this. I'm going to leave out a lot of fluff. My goal was to try to get you to do this in about 10 minutes or so. And I almost made it. I think I'm going to come in around 11 minutes and 50 seconds or maybe 12 minutes or so. But I think I'm going to be able to do this. So I'm in DigitalOcean right now. And the first thing I need to do is, since I'm doing this from scratch, there's nothing out there that's right now, is I'm going to provision a virtual server. Now, you can do this in a couple ways. Ubuntu works pretty good. FreeDSB works good. CentOS or CentOS works good as well. But I'm going to use Ubuntu, and I'm going to use 11.04 to spin up a virtual server using Linux, using using the Linux operating system. So anyway, I don't need a lot of horsepower to do this. I can if I want to, but I can use a small CPU, just like a 1 gig CPU with about 25 gig of disk. I won't need all of that. Now, obviously, if I'm going to be running, failover replication, I'm going to want to do more than that. But a small server for now, and to skip all the security, SSH, I'm going to skip that. I'm just going to go for a one-time password. Now, obviously, in production, you're probably going to want to be more secure than this, but my goal here is just to get a server spun up and going and to get MySQL installed. So, anyway, you could do the authentication a little bit later. For right now, a one-time password, what's going to happen is I'm going to get an email with my root password. I'm going to log in with my root password, and then change it. Okay, at this point, after I name my droplet, I'm going to create it. Now I'm going to wait just a couple seconds for it to be created. Now I know what you're saying. Do I have to use DigitalOcean? Nope. You could use AWS. Anything you want. You could spin up any server through any platform as a service or infrastructure as a service provider. Works just fine. I like DigitalOcean because it's inexpensive and it's comforting. I'm just kind of used to using it. But you can use certainly any of the providers that you like. Again, I like DigitalOcean. If you want to use AWS, great. If you want to use Azure, great. Google Cloud, you can pick your own machine. So I'm just picking mine, and I'm going to spin it up. So I'm just going to give it a second. And usually in DigitalOcean, I don't get a response saying that it's ready to go. But I'm just going to give it a second and just kind of take a mental picture of this. My IP address, and some other machines that I have. At this point, what we can do is we can log in and get our email, because what happens is DigitalOcean is going to give us our one-time root password so we could log into the machine, change our root password, and do things like, for example, set up an additional user with sudo privileges, and we're doing that now. So you could kind of like close your eyes, and I don't have anything terribly too personal here on my email, and if anything looks personal, just shut your eyes and I'll tell you when you can open them again. So I'm just going to get my email, and when I get my email, I'm just going to take my password and just put it to the clipboard. I'm going to copy and paste it when I log into my server. So I'll give my email a couple seconds to refresh. By that time, I'm sure I'm going to have my email from DigitalOcean. It's going to have my droplet password, and there it is. So I click on that. You can see the password right there. I'm going to take it and put it to the clipboard. You can save it. You can put it in Notepad. I don't care. Do whatever you like with it. So at this point now, I can log onto the console to my box. Now I can use other utilities like PuTTY. If you have PuTTY, you can use that. From here, I'm just going to use the console in DigitalOcean. You can use whatever you like. I like the console to do simple stuff, especially since there's no authentication. Easy peasy. Again, remember, I'm giving you happy path. So now I get to log in as my root user. I'm not going to talk too much about what your root user is. I'm assuming you know that your root user has root command line access to the machine. It's going to ask me my password. I'm going to paste it in, and it's going to ask me again, and then change it. I'm going to do that as well. But it looks like I screwed this up. So I'm going to have to add maybe 30 seconds onto my time to get this done in 10 minutes. Oh, by the way, if I'm going too fast and if you're following along with me, you can pause this. Again, I'm just trying to give you the quick version of this and then that way you could take your time and get it working. So I'm pasting in the root password it gave me, and then it's asking me for my new password. I'm gonna just type it in here. Remember what it is. Don't forget your root password. It's a pain in the ass if you need to find it. So there, I'm logged in. So I got my machine up and going with my root user. So the first thing I want to do is let me create another user. You don't want to use root for really anything but really root. I know some people, including myself, were lazy, but I'm going to add a user, and let's see, I'll add a user called B. Hendry. Hey, that's me. And this user will have sudo privileges. So sudo means that we could have sudo root privileges. It's asking me for the password for B. Hendry and some other stuff, and I'm just gonna kind of scroll through that. Is it correct? Yes. And then I'm almost done. Now, okay, so I added a user called B. Hendry. I'm still logged in as root. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change the access or the privileges of B. Hendry and give him sudo privileges or her sudo privileges. So on this machine, I'm not going to log in as root. I probably could, but no, I'm not going to. I'm just going to log in as B. Hendry. B. Hendry is going to be my default root sudo user, and we'll just use root sometime in an emergency. All right, so there we go. That's like step 2. Step 1, spin the server up. Step 2, create a user that you could do stuff with. Don't use root. So let me just do an exit and log back in as B. Hendry and put in my password. And at this point, everything should be fine. I should get the info on the machine itself, and we're good to go. Okay, now the next step is to do the install for MySQL. Now there's really 3 things you need to do. First, what you need to do is you need to update the packages. Then you need to download and do the install for MySQL. And then the third step is you need to just to run the security for MySQL. So this is the first command. There's 3 commands. First command, sudo apt update. What this does is it updates all the packages on the machine. So give it a second, and it should just take a few seconds to update all the packages on our new machine. Remember, this is a greenfield machine. That means we started it from scratch. This machine didn't exist 11 minutes ago. It exists now. Okay, so now we've updated the packages. Now next thing we're going to do is we're going to download and install MySQL. So we're going to do sudo, because we have to do this with root privileges. And then we're going to do apt install, and then we're going to do the install for MySQL. And again, if I'm going too fast, you can always stop the video and see that command again. So that's the second command. So we wait about maybe 25 seconds, 30 seconds. And at this point, what happens is we do the install for MySQL. We're basically effectively done. As soon as the progress goes to 100%, then I get the command line. And we're going to have an optional step after this. And the optional step is going to be configuring the MySQL security and doing an install of the data dictionary. And let's do that. So let's do sudo MySQL _ security, or pardon me, MySQL secure installation. Hit enter. It's going to ask me for a few things. It's going to ask if we want to, for example, if we want to set up the validate password plugin. Keep it easy. For now, no, we don't want to do that. We'll just keep weak security for now. Now, again, in reality, you're going to have to think a little bit harder about these questions. It's going to ask me for my root password for MySQL. I put in my root password. You make it up, and I wrote it down, and I put it in my in Notepad so I don't forget it. Now it's going to ask me about if I want to keep my test database. Nah, I don't want to keep that. Or I'm sorry, it wants me if I want to remove it. No, I don't want to remove it. Then it's going to ask me if I want to reload the privilege tables now, and yes, I do. So that's the only thing that we say yes to. So now we have all done. So I went over the security install. I say no to everything except yes to the install of the privilege tables. Okay, now what I can do is, like I said, I'm basically done, but let's do one more step and make sure that the installation was successful and MySQL is running as a service. So we'll do system control status MySQL service, and we should see that it's installed and it's running. And there we go. See, it's active and it's running. So that's good. So that our install worked okay. Hit Control Z if you need to get to the command line. And it is installed as a service and it's running. So now all we need to do is just log on to MySQL. So we can sudo into that and then really just start out building our databases. We could start out building database users. We could build databases and just do all the stuff that we know how to do as database developers. Remember, all as I'm doing here is I'm doing the install on a greenfield machine. So I'm just going to type in sudo MySQL, and now I'm logged in as a root user. So there it is. We're not done as far as building our database out, but we are done with the install. So what we've done is we went into our cloud provider, which is DigitalOcean. We provisioned a new machine. We spun up the new machine, we created a user, and we installed MySQL. So that's really about it. So your work now is really just beginning, and I know I went really quickly through this, but my goal was to try to get this in a video and explained in about 10 minutes, so that way there's no fluff and you could get right to it, and then you could ask all your questions later. Thanks, and have a great day.